Hey everyone, Jared here from Truck Safe Consulting. In this video, we're going to focus on electronic logging devices and some of the more critical questions you should be asking before entering into a contract with an ELD vendor. Or, if you already have an ELD solution, these are questions that you'll for sure want to know the answers to. Because this is a big topic that could go a ton of different directions, I chose to pick 5 critical questions for you as a motor carrier that you should be asking. So stay tuned, and if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe below so you can stay up to date on all of our free DOT compliance related content. It's difficult to talk about DOT compliance without at least mentioning hours of service, or HOS for short. The reason for this is that hours of service violations are double weighted in the context of an audit. As a result, hours of service is often the one area that trips up motor carriers in an audit, and sometimes leads to downgraded safety ratings and monetary penalties. ELDs have been around for a while now, and in theory, hours of service should be easier than it ever has been for motor carriers. If it's not, maybe the questions in this video are worth looking into with your vendor, or maybe it's just time to look for a new ELD solution altogether. ELDs have certainly made the review of logs very easy for enforcement at roadside and in the context of an audit. While this is great for enforcement, carriers that are stuck with a bad ELD solution will discover that compliance is made even more difficult with ELDs. Over the years, I've looked at a ton of ELD solutions, both at the request of motor carrier clients and at the request of ELD vendors directly. With the motor carriers, my reviews focused on ELD processes, making sure the ELD is working for the company and not getting in the way of the motor carrier maintaining hours of service compliance. When I tested an ELD solution at the request of an ELD vendor, that review is focused on the ELD technical specifications and ELD test cases. And that review is carried out with the goal of improving the device's compliance with the requirements of the ELD rule. But regardless of who I'm conducting a review for, I always separate my review into 2 distinct buckets: in-truck testing and back office or administrative testing. A great ELD solution is strong in the truck as well as in the back office. If an ELD solution is weak in one of these areas, it will eventually catch up with the motor carrier. So let's look at these questions that you should ask when you're shopping for an ELD solution, or if you're just looking to make sure your ELD practices are up to snuff. First, you should ask, can I demo your device on a few trucks? Don't just sit through the demo with the vendor sales rep. While simulators and Zoom meetings can be great for getting a flavor for the ELD solution, don't discount the value of having a few of your trusted and experienced drivers' feedback on the ELD solution after running it in their truck for a month or so. This simple step could have saved a number of my motor carrier clients from being locked into a contract with a solution they're unhappy with. The contract issue leads me to my next question, which is number 2, what is the true term of the agreement? Many ELD contracts I've reviewed have a very poorly defined contract term as far as start date and end dates go. For example, if you're slowly transitioning your fleet from ELD A to ELD B, does the term of the contract start when you place your first device, or does the contract term start when the last device is placed on a truck? This could mean 6 months or more to you on a contract term, and 6 months could feel like a very long time if you want out of a contract. Other contract landmines include minimum device count requirements, termination procedures, and those contracts that disclaim everything under the sun. If you aren't comfortable with the contract, get help with it from counsel. The third question is, what reports are available? This may be the most important question of all. There are a number of critical reports that you as a motor carrier should be working on a scheduled basis. Some of these common reports include personal conveyance report, unidentified driving events report, hours of service violation report, odometer jump report, form and manner violation report, and malfunction report. Of the reports that I've just mentioned, I'll rank a few of them based on importance and talk about some of the details of these reports, as all motor carriers listening to this are likely interacting with ELDs on a daily basis. The most important report of those mentioned is certainly the unidentified driving events report. The ELD rule requires that an ELD record all automatically recorded drive time that's generated while no driver is logged in. This automatically recorded time has to go to a single unidentified events bucket that the motor carrier can review and work from the back office. If you as a motor carrier have never worked this unidentified drive time, I would suggest you do so as soon as possible. Over the years, I've seen a number of really good carriers with thousands of unidentified driving events that had piled up due to them not working this report on a regular basis. In my opinion, the unidentified driving events should be looked at on a daily basis at first, and then potentially on a weekly basis once those problematic drivers have been trained or counseled into better habits. I can tell you the DOT will most likely be asking for this unidentified drive time report if they come in for a focused or a full audit. Next, the personal conveyance report. This report can be worked weekly so long as personal conveyance isn't being widely abused in your fleet. If you haven't been paying close attention to personal conveyance use, chances are you likely have your work cut out for you here. If this is you, I'd suggest you first establish an ELD policy that clearly defines what is expected of drivers with regards to ELD use. This would include a detailed section on personal conveyance. As long as the personal conveyance use is permissible, as per the FMCSA guidance, it's up to you as the motor carrier what type of limitations are placed on personal conveyance. I've seen many motor carriers place time or distance limitations on personal conveyance use, and I've also seen some motor carriers simply turn off personal conveyance from their devices. This is perfectly acceptable if a motor carrier decides to do so. These are all items that should be in an ELD policy. In this ELD policy, a motor carrier should be sure to provide real examples of permissible personal conveyance use and impermissible personal conveyance use. Check out our prior video on personal conveyance if this topic gives you a headache, as our personal conveyance video really makes the issues more digestible for everyone. Last thing on reports, hours of service violation report is great, but it can't take the place of auditing logs. I challenge you to audit 10% of all logs for 1 month and compare the violations discovered in the audit to the hours of service violation report. I can almost guarantee the violations will not be fully aligned. Both audits and the HOS violation report should be used as tools for hours of service compliance. Okay, so fourth question is, how are exemptions and rule sets treated, and what exemptions and hours of service rule sets are available? Motor carriers need to understand how exemptions and rule sets are activated. Can drivers just switch between oil field hours of service on their device or simply switch into AOBRD mode on their device? How can you as the motor carrier track the use of short haul exempt and the use of adverse driving conditions? One thing is certain, drivers will figure out how to tap into the hours of service weaknesses of each device, and believe me, there is no perfect ELD solution. The best scenario is to have all exemptions controlled from the back office. However, if short haul, for instance, is regularly used in your fleet, this may be impractical. Also, many carriers should strongly consider allowing for the additional flexibility that's given by the adverse driving conditions exemption. Again, having a process and clearly defined policy on hours of service and ELD is key to making sure drivers understand what is expected of them. So, we'll wrap up with one last question, which is, what trainings are available? Most ELD vendors offer some level of online-based training that assists drivers and safety managers with ELD use and functionality. If the vendor you're using or considering doesn't have any trainings available, you should try to understand why this is the case and seek out other resources available from the vendor. If online trainings are available, these are great remediation tools when a driver demonstrates a lack of understanding with their ELD use. If you have specific questions on ELDs, policies, technical specifications, or whatever, feel free to send us a message through our website at trucksafeconsulting.com. And if you're interested in even more in-depth discussions of the federal safety regulations, take a look at our comprehensive online compliance courses for drivers and safety managers at trucksafeacademy.com. Thanks for watching and be well.